it's just a game. We'll play the part, but it won't be the same. They have a habit overcharging, forcing the hand into a plea bargain. Offered up a plea deal, but I didn't do it for real. Turn the world against me, but I just wanna be free. I've got the facts, they've got the lies. Motion denied. They say they've got so much evidence. Trace DNA is taking precedence over unknown blood found at the scene. I think it's time someone just came clean. Offered up a plea deal, but I didn't do it for real. Turn the world against me, but I just wanna be free. I've got the facts, they've got the lies. Motion denied. Been sentenced to death. I'm not a bad guy, not holding my breath. Rather do life than offered up a plea deal, but I didn't do it for real. Turn the world against me, but I just wanna be free. I've got the facts, they've got the lies. Motion the night. Motion the night. Motion the night. Motion the night. Close the night out right, panel at the table in that half-dead light. Miss Robin in the middle, calling every shot, directing and producing, till the story runs hot. 1-1 from the city, badge heavy on his chest, towing that law like a wicked chain, spitting facts, no rest. Crimes after dark, we close the night out right, tear through the lies till the wrong sounds like a fire. sedan. All of them leaning in, clock crawling, eyes bright. Every secret feels louder than the buzzing of the night. Crimes after dark, we close the night outright. Tear through the lies till the wrong sounds like a fight. All of the answers buried so deep out of sight. We watch the threads unravel. We watch the threads ignite. You can bury it in paper, you can lock it in a file, but the truth bleeds through, drip by drip, tile by tile. We're dragging it to daylight, name by name, line by line. If you wrote it in the shadows, we'll read it out this time. Yeah. Crimes after dark, we close the night outright. Tear through the lies till the wrong sounds like a fight. All of the answers buried so deep out of sight. We watch the threads unravel. We watch the threads ignite.
All right, everybody, welcome to a Crimes After Dark show, and welcome to another evening. And that music kicks ass. The music before that kicks ass. We've got various creators that helped put that together. I think Cat Farm helped put together the music for the Motion Denied. I think Dago helped with the music on the main theme song. I think that was a Dago inspiration on that one as well. So badass collaborative efforts between our musician wannabe, they're not musician wannabes, they're fucking musicians. We got multiple musicians on this show, JJ and Dago, and I'm a wannabe. I'm a musician wannabe. But anyways, it seems like our show more and more is combining music with true crime. Anyways, it is time to bring the panel on stage. We're going to get everybody up at one time, and we're going to get at her on a Monday evening. So we got JJ, we've got One, we've got Robin, we've got Dago. That's our panel for this evening. It changes from time to time. How you all doing tonight?
Very good.
All right. How's everybody else?
Good stuff.
I'm parental advisory, explicit.
You
content.
are.
Yep.
Yeah. You look better with stuff on your face, but I'll pull it off.
I've been told. that. I have been told that before.
It's a Monday night. This is too early for a Friday night. That's Friday night shit right there is what that is.
Some sloppy sauce.
Anyways, we'll move past that. So look, everybody, it's good to see you all on the panel. I appreciate.
I love you all too.
The camaraderie. Camaraderie. Yeah. So anyways, it's been great. Christopher Whitcomb's book is still making rounds. It's coming out. I know that it's officially out tomorrow, but some of you have been getting your book already. I think, see, look at that. We got hard copies that are in people's hands right now. JJ got a copy. Dago got a copy. So the books are being delivered to people. Probably people who pre-ordered might be getting it today or have got it today. The rest of people hopefully will get it tomorrow. So that book's out. Christopher Whitcomb's made the rounds with quite a few different creators. We were envious enough to be in the number one position. So we got the first interview with Christopher Whitcomb, and that was amazing. He's been on with Birdie Bombshells. I think that was maybe second for him. Custody Queens, he's been on with them. Lana, he's been on with her.
Andrew Myers too.
Andrew Myers. I didn't see him on the Andrew Myers show.
He talked to Andrew Myers as well. I found out, which Andrew's joining us coming Saturday, so that'll be an interesting conversation.
He's been making the rounds with mainstream media. He's had News Nation, a couple different people, Brian Henton, and another person on News Nation.
No.
Fox Digital.
That don't count. That Brian, don't get me started. That Brian Henton thing don't even count. I said more cuss words today. I reviewed that. No way. Nope. Can't do it.
Whatever the case may be, he is making the rounds, and I'm fortunate enough to kind of be talking to Chris regularly. So Chris will be back, I'm sure, on our show coming up in the future. I know not everybody on the panel has the same feelings. All of us have different feelings. Some of us are pocketing our feelings. The book has pros and cons. What I will say is this, before we get into it, what I want to spend tonight is I actually want to read passages of the book. I don't know if you saw my short video this morning. I did a short video this morning on the DNA evidence. It's part 4 in my series. I've been doing a 10-part series on the book. And I did it on the DNA evidence. And I am convinced, and I've said it before, they'd never had Bryan Kohberger's DNA. They convinced everybody in America they had Bryan Kohberger's DNA. They did not have Bryan Kohberger's DNA. In fact, what they did is they suspected Bryan Kohberger, and then they shopped the DNA to find a lab that would say it was Bryan Kohberger. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And that's what the book basically says in chapter, I think it was 13.
13.
And so I want to read some passages from you tonight, or for you tonight on screen. If you don't want spoilers for your book, because your book's on the way, maybe stay here but mute it, because I don't want you to get away the watch time. We need the watch time, so stay here, mute the thing if you don't want spoilers, because we are going to probably read from sections of the book and talk about it. So, I talk a lot.
Yes.
Yes,
I do the intro.
You do.
Yeah. We need a
intro.
1-1 intro. Let's do a 1-1.
All right, I got to start it off. Is it good to be alive in the den? Oh,
yeah.
Night?
Always.
Yeah.
Juliana, Jackson, my beautiful wife. Love you guys. Always. There's a dangerous comfort in believing you've finally been given the answers. A book drops. A voice steps forward. A narrative begins to harden. And people start to say, this is it. This is the truth. But is it? Welcome to Devil's Advocates, where we don't just listen, we interrogate. Where every claim, every timeline, every so-called revelation gets dragged into the light. And tonight, we're stepping into something that's already starting to shape the conversation. The words of Christopher Whitcomb, the story laid out in Broken Plea. A book that claims to pull back the curtain to reveal what really happened, to connect dots others couldn't or wouldn't. But here's the question no one wants to sit with. Are we really trusting it? Or are we just ready to? Because belief is easy when the story sounds complete. But truth is messy, fragmented, full of contradictions that don't sit right in your gut. And that's where we live. Not alone, never alone. With Lee steady in the storm, cutting through the noise when things start to feel too clean, too packaged. With JJ pushing deeper, asking the questions that don't come with easy answers, the ones that linger long after the mic goes cold. With Robin watching everything, catching the details others overlook, the small cracks that turn into something much bigger. With 1-1, bringing the receipts, the clips, the moments frozen in time that refuse to stay buried. And with Dago, guiding the conversation straight into the uncomfortable, where truth and narrative start to pull apart. Because this isn't about tearing something down for the sake of it. It's about asking, what should we believe? And what should we question? What holds up under pressure? And what falls apart the second you look at it twice? Because here's the reality. A compelling story doesn't always mean a true one. And sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't a lie. It's something that feels almost right. So tonight, we don't accept, we don't dismiss, we examine, we challenge. We pull every thread until something gives. Because if this book changes everything, then it should survive scrutiny. And if it doesn't, you deserve to know that too. Welcome to Devil's Advocates, where belief is earned and the truth is never handed to you. And with that, live from New York, it's Monday night.
All right. Thank you so much for kicking us off on Monday night. And I'm
Good one.
by the way, yeah, that was very good. Appreciate that. I love that you tailor make every intro with whatever's going on for the night. You spend
try.
a lot of time.
They're all very
yeah.
good.
I appreciate that very much. I'm a little feverish. I went out for a hike this morning, so I'm a little feverish. I'm feeling that kicking in, so that's lovely. I don't know if the hike should cause a fever, but I certainly feel a little dumpy. But I want to do is I want to read portions from the book, and I realized unfortunately that means we're going to lose Heart of Gold. She's like, no spoilers. I'm out as soon as one's done. I don't want to hear anything about the book. And yeah, we're going to read some portions of the book, and here's the thing. I encourage us to talk very heavily in the middle of this reading. Obviously, just reading straight from the book can be seen as a copyright violation unless you add something to the conversation. I don't think we as a panel are going to have any problems adding things to the conversation.
No,
so I'm not too worried about that.
I have nothing to say.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Never.
All right. So what I wanted to point out is I'm going to set the stage and then I'm going to pull up the book and we're going to start talking. I noticed during one of the pretrial hearings, Ann Taylor took Detective Payne, who's the lead detective for Moscow Police Department. Now, I want you to make sure you understand this. The lead detective. Now, think about this for just a moment when we get into the details on this. Do you think there's any human possibility that the lead detective in charge of this investigation doesn't know who their primary suspect is? That he has no idea who the primary suspect is in the case that he's the lead of? There's no way in hell anybody with 2 cents of a brain can think that your lead detective doesn't know who their primary suspect is. So when Ann Taylor catches Brett Payne on the stand, essentially pretending like he didn't know who Bryan Kohberger was, after he had already been identified as a lead suspect, it leads to a major fucking problem. And some people have said, look, Brett Payne's just telling you his recollection. He says he didn't remember. It doesn't mean he's lying. If you're the lead detective and you don't know who the primary suspect is in your case, that's not just it's an oversight. He technically isn't right. Maybe he just didn't remember. You don't remember who your lead suspect is? All right. So let's get into this. I cry bullshit.
Lies.
Lies. Horse shit.
Yep. And
right. Like I could see forgetting or maybe being wrong about a fact here or there, but not a lead suspect. No way.
Well,
no way.
Sounds familiar.
There again, he really wasn't the lead detective.
One could argue he wasn't, but that's a whole other thing. He technically is listed as the lead detective. Yeah,
very much so.
All right. So this is a line from the book. Now I'm working off an advanced copy, so the page number on here might be different than your hard copy if you've got a hard copy already in your possession, or if you get it tomorrow. This is all from chapter 13. And I remember this when I read the court transcript. I'm like, oh shit, Ann Taylor just caught him in a lie, and she nails him on it. She five different times she has him repeat a date that she knows he's lying about. And she was going to crucify him on it, in my opinion. Now, she was just setting up what we call foundation, something that she's going to come. She does it a lot. We'll come back to that later, but I just want to make sure we hit this like 5 times. We'll come back to that later. Unfortunately, we didn't come back to it later because the trial never happened and we got robbed in this country. But this would have come out in the trial. And you need to pay attention to the details.
Well, I think, Lee, you're right 100%. She proved her point. She was proving a point, and even though they didn't get to carry it on to trial, she would have ground the point in, but she made her point. I agree fully. So
right. So according to the book, and this is jumping into that particular procedure that I talked about. After a few procedural exchanges, Ann Taylor calls her first witness, Moscow Police Department lead detective Brett Payne, and she asks him, "When was the first time you heard Bryan Kohberger's name?" She asks after a series of questions about his job and background. He responds, "The first time I heard Bryan Kohberger's name was on December 19th, 2022. And immediately I said, oh, fuck, that's not true. And Ann Taylor knew it wasn't true. And so she hammers him. And what was that a result of? Now I imagine at this point, Ann Taylor's jaw has already dropped that he just said the 19th, but she keeps her shit together. So it was the 19th. What was that the result of? He says, that was the result of investigative genetic genealogy that was being undertaken by the FBI. We had a phone call that evening. So Brett Payne is very specific about the first time he heard Bryan Kohberger's name, and it's all horseshit, and Ann Taylor knows it's horseshit. Yeah. But he's got full detail. Oh yeah, I remember it clearly. We had a phone call that night, and this is when I heard Bryan Kohberger's name for the first time. We had a phone call that evening, and we were told Bryan Kohberger's name right there. And in my opinion, and let's talk about it. I think right there, Brett Payne perjured himself. He had already heard Bryan Kohberger's name,
right?
And she knows it, and he just flat out. I don't know what he was. Did he have a giant brain fart, or is it just flat out lie?
I think the latter, Lee. Truly and honestly, it was you have to have a brain to have a fucking brain fart. I think it was a lie. Sorry.
Yeah, it feels like it's. I don't know how it could be a brain fart. Again, how can you be the lead detective and not know who your lead suspect has been identified?
Thank you.
So Ann Taylor continues, and before that, Mr. Kohberger was not on your radar. No, ma'am. Ann now is setting him up. You just lied, and I want to clarify. You didn't know Bryan Kohberger's name before that? No, ma'am. He says. Now the author, Christopher Whitcomb, knows this is a problem when he's looking for it. And he says, this is a critically important statement because according to Moscow Police Department reports, no one started looking for a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra until December 19th. So listen, right? He's saying the first time they heard of Kohberger was on the 19th. They didn't even start looking for the 2015 Hyundai Elantra until December 16 or 26, a full
26.
week later. And that was supposedly due to a WSU officer stumbling onto it in parking registrations. According to Detective Payne's sworn statement, Kohberger had, quote, appeared on his radar well before the FBI revised its analysis of the mysterious white sedan from a Nissan Sentra to a Hyundai manufactured between 2011 and 13. Now let's stop right there. That car continued to shift in the law enforcement's opinion about what it was. It continued to shift, especially once they decided Bryan Kohberger drove a 2015 Elantra, and then all of a sudden they said, hey, we're looking for a 2015 Elantra, after they determined Bryan Kohberger was who they were looking for.
And if I can add to that, even last night, Chris was saying, as he was talking to Lana, that came up. There was 4 different other cars they were looking for at one point too, Lee.
Right. A Nissan
what the hell
Sentra.
Is it? That there it is, Sentra and something else. So
a Ford. I think they had a Ford
Fusion.
Fusion on the list too. I think.
Yes, I believe so. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I believe so. But yeah, that's a problem, folks. There's like 3 or 4 different cars they're looking for, and they just picked the one conveniently that Bryan Kohberger drives. There's the problem.
Yeah. And where we're going with this, people, if you don't understand is, and again, we've said this before, this is a bit of a cerebral book in a way, even though it reads really, really easy. It's a quick read. It's easy to read, and it's in plain English. You need to be paying attention to the details, because it's those little details that he's giving you are like breadcrumbs to, oh, fuck, they lied about when they knew Kohberger, and what he's alleging, because Christopher Whitcomb can't say it. What he's alleging is they fit all of the data to the suspect they had in mind. It's not the way it's supposed to work. They're supposed to develop leads, then find out what suspect they get from the leads. Instead, it was like they had a suspect, and then they fit all the leads retroactively to that suspect. Oh, he drives a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. That's what we're looking for, is a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. Oh, we don't have DNA evidence that can link to anybody. Well, Bryan Kohberger's name, go find a lab that'll say it's Bryan Kohberger. That's kind of how it breaks down, and we'll go into it a little bit in detail. If he continues in this paragraph, if we are led to believe that the WSU police just happened to spot Kohberger's car a week after the detective in charge in the investigation learned his name, it is a significant stretch of credulity. I love that word. It's a big word. At what point did experts finally decide that they were looking for a 2015 Elantra? And he just leaves it there. He just leaves you hanging. When did they change it from looking for a 2011 to 2000? When did they change it from looking for a Nissan Sentra to a 2011 to 13 Hyundai Elantra, and then shifted it again to a 2015 Hyundai Elantra, and then broadened it to a 2016 Hyundai Elantra? Like, when did they decide to do that? All right. Yeah. Go ahead, Dago. I see something. You're smoldering there. I see you're smoldering.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't say anything.
Okay. Now, I know this is a little bit in depth, but I want to hit this thing at this point. Before this is continuing on Ann Taylor's interrogation. Before December 19th, she asks, was the FBI cast team member co-located with you? Yes, ma'am. This is important because what Ann Taylor is going to catch Brett Payne in saying is that they got Bryan Kohberger's name from the FBI cast data. The cast member was located with them well before December 19th. She knows they had Bryan Kohberger's name as a suspect before December 19th. When he says the first time I ever heard Bryan Kohberger's name was December 19th, that's not true. And she knows it. That's why she's setting up all this foundation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
According to Payne's sworn statement, he somehow learned about Kohberger's name from the FBI cast member, not from the identification of his car, as had always been believed. If true, this changes the prosecution's narrative entirely. And I know that not everybody's going to catch this and everybody's going to understand that. It is a little confusing. I'll try to get a few more highlights and we'll talk about it some more. For those wondering what this has to do with DNA, because this chapter is about DNA. So why are we talking all about the car? Well, because when they knew, this is the crux. So we're talking about DNA. So why are we talking about the car? Because it was after they learned Bryan Kohberger's name that they started looking for labs that would develop DNA to the suspect that they had in mind, which is Bryan Kohberger. It did not happen that they developed DNA, found that DNA was Bryan Kohberger, and then said, oh, look, Bryan Kohberger happens to drive a white Nissan or Hyundai Elantra. That's not how it worked. It wasn't that they developed Bryan Kohberger first and then went and said, oh, he fits all these other criteria. It's that they had him on the radar and then they shopped his DNA. That's what this book is alleging without flat out telling you. All right. So for those who are wondering what this has to do with DNA, remember that the whole point of a Franks hearing is to demonstrate false statements by an affiant in the presentation of a search warrant affidavit. So Brett Payne prepared search warrant, probable cause affidavit, and all these things, right? She's saying he made false statements in that affidavit, and that's what the Frank hearings is supposed to show. The Franks hearing is saying you made false statements to develop a probable cause affidavit in the first place. Taylor clearly had a target in mind, and Payne was part of her foundation. Remember, we're looking at the state's only listen. We are looking at the state's only physical evidence, the DNA. That's it. That's the only thing that supposedly places Kohberger at the crime scene is the DNA. And what this chapter tells you is the DNA was horseshit. They didn't have his DNA.
Yep.
What Ann Taylor believed that she knew, and almost everyone else did not, is that police may have identified Bryan Kohberger as a person of interest well before they supposedly stumbled onto his car. The lead detective, Brett Payne, had just sworn under oath that he learned about Kohberger from cast specialist from the FBI. They had decided to go that route with genetic genealogy, and they had done it not through Idaho State Police lab, but a private company in Texas. Here comes Othram Labs, right? And Othram Labs is making the tour around the country about how they caught Bryan Kohberger. Fucking Othram Labs didn't do dick. They did not catch Bryan Kohberger. I don't understand. By the way, I'm going to CrimeCon in weeks. How does CrimeCon for the second year in a row go on the stage and say they caught Bryan Kohberger when all the records show they didn't fucking catch shit? They did not catch Bryan Kohberger. And they're still going on fucking CrimeCon and saying they're doing it.
I wish somebody would call them the fuck out, Lee. I honestly,
know.
God,
Yeah.
I really wish somebody would.
Yep.
I am so tired
amazing.
of hearing it.
Well, then the question that I have, it's a pretty basic question. Why are they allowed to lie? Well, there's only, in my opinion, one possible reason, right? Because there was a bigger thing involved, and that's why they were never called out about the fact that they didn't find Bryan Kohberger as the source of the DNA. It didn't point to him. And so who did that ultimately fall on? The FBI. And so the FBI, it's just a simple question. Why would they do that? You know what my answer is, but I want to see what everybody else thinks the answer is.
Well, it's probably not the same one you have, but the reason why I think they can say it is because there's no trial. Right now, they can say anything they want. They can say Bryan Kohberger sniffs panties, and nobody can say anything about it because he pled guilty. They can say
but what I'm
they
saying
want.
is from Jump Street.
Yeah.
They said that it was Bryan Kohberger, and they gave a quote unquote tip to MPD. Right. Why did they do that?
I would love to hear your analysis.
That's much bigger than local corruption.
Right.
That's
right.
Right. Because they're getting that information from a higher level of law enforcement.
Right. Yeah. It begs the question, where did they get Bryan Kohberger's name and how? How did they get Bryan Kohberger's name in connection with this crime?
They never disclosed that.
And they also, very early on, when his name came into the fold, people were like, oh, they must have him connected to other crimes, right? That was the narrative that was going around. The FBI must have been investigating him for other crimes, but that was never the case.
Yeah.
And that was around the time that I started putting some pieces together and coming up with my theory that there was already well, we know this for a fact. There was already operations in the area.
Right.
And they needed to cover certain things up. And you have a guy who's potentially, this is just a theory, but it's logical, working along with NIJ funding, which is federal funding, who's in the area, who maybe, again, he could have already been working with the feds at that point. And so they insert him into it to facilitate a cover-up that's going to cause a lot of blowback. That's my overarching theory in a nutshell, the simple form of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It explains a lot of things. It explains how a guy with no history of violence, not tied to any other violent crimes, who just so happens, oh, by the way, to be someone who's schooled in cloud-based forensics, which is part of what their narrative was going to be to use to convict him. And, oh, by the way, he's also a PhD candidate in criminology. And so with an interest in working for a higher level of law enforcement. So to me, that's a little too coincidental. And that horseshit theory, oh, he was trying to carry out the perfect crime. Look, he read books about Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
That's all fiction. That's all Howard Bloom fiction writing. So,
right.
Yep.
It is. Yeah.
And
it's all bullshit.
Combine that with the fact that the mainstream media was in lockstep from Jump Street. As soon as Kohberger's name came into the picture, the whole media was all in lockstep instantaneously.
Yeah.
You bring to mind a good point, Joe. I'd be curious to hear what Bloom's reaction to this damn book is too.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got his own book in the works, right? Another book on Idaho.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I can just see that one. Guys, I was wrong.
I mean,
right. Well, he's not going to say he's wrong. He was just.
I was mistaken, everyone.
Exactly. There's a really important thing that I don't think I ever talked about that people have to keep in mind. Look at the organizations that Howard Bloom worked for. I'll let people do their own research. The Atlantic,
right?
Some of those. Right. Look at what they are.
Who owns those companies? Right.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, literally, trace it to who they are connected to. So we all know about Operation Mockingbird. This is old news.
Oh yeah.
Old hat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still going on. Anybody with logical thinking knows that, of course, the media is still working with the state and intelligence to push certain narratives. You look at the writers who wrote all these pieces that were largely, in my opinion, and probably everybody here's opinion, ridiculous. Okay, look at you have to go a few steps, right, to find out what the reasoning might be why they did what they did. And so I'm biased, obviously, because of my theory, but in my opinion, that supports my theory even more, that all these high-level sources were in line with the official narrative. I think they got marching orders.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah. No, it's a very good point, because that was the whole, that's why they don't want to say where the tip came from. They don't want to show, and that's what Anne was trying to fight. Like, what is this tip? What is this special tip?
Which still blows my mind that Hitler had the gumption, the balls, whatever you want to call it, to step forward and tell both sides, I need you guys to come together to come up with a story to tell about this tip thing. Like, I still can't get that out of my mind. And
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Thinking about how that plays into all of this. You know what I mean? Why did nobody call that out?
Right.
Why did they agree to that too, Lee? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of questions about why Ann Taylor didn't jump all over some shit.
Yeah.
But we'll to set that aside. Real quick, Senior Wazgowski says that they have a records response for Linda Lane's parking and dumpster footage from 11 p.m. on the 12th to 7 a.m. on the 13th. They wanted $1,200, and they've already paid half that price. I know, fucking MPD is charging too much fucking money for
Extortion.
these. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They need money to pay their lawyers when they get fucking sued out of their minds, probably. But
yeah, and it better not be redacted audio and shit either.
Right? They don't even promise what you're going to get when you get it. You're just taking a stab.
No,
I figured it out, you guys. I think I just solved this shit. The part where Chris is talking about how there was an extortion case out of Pennsylvania connected to this. Here it is. This is it right here.
MPD is extorting everybody for the fucking footage.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So thank you, Senior Wazowski, for staying on top of that. Again, we support the public records requests, and we've got a war chest put together to help out with things like that. So I'm glad that you're on that. I can't wait to see if anything comes out of that. I hope you'll share that with the community so we can all analyze and scrutinize it as well. So
he did Chris did kind of go against the Cellbrite guys a little bit.
Yeah,
that husband and wife. He said that Kohberger, I guess, in the few months period or whatever they were looking at, because he's got all the cell phone data. He says, Kohberger went to porn stuff on 3 separate occasions. Three.
I think he said 3 out of 3,008 searches. Porn was in there 3 times.
Shocking.
I know. 27-year-old single male. Oh my God!
My entire search history is porn. What does that fucking mean? Am I in trouble?
Who knows? I'm just saying. But one thing that was clarified last night that Atlanta kind of pulled out of him last night. I want to clarify for everybody. Everybody was freaking out because Chris kept saying that Moscow PD did an outstanding job. Did this, did that. That was clarified last night. He does not believe that. Okay. He does not believe that at this point. Thank God that he clarified that. So for all of you that were upset and freaking out about that, there you go. There's your
answer. But the thing about that though, Dago, is that he had to be pushed to say that.
I know. I get it. I believe me, Jeff. Same thing I said last night.
No, I just have to say it.
You're right. You're right.
Like you don't, if you're going to put information that's very, very, very leading you to believe that they did a horrible job, which they did by all accounts. But then when you're asked about it, you say they did a fantastic job, investigating and so on and so forth. I mean, he had to be pushed.
He changed. He went back on that. He's like, well, I didn't really mean to say they did a good job. He's like, they did a comprehensive, thorough. That's what. He went back on his word.
And then I even argued that after the fact, and I said, how fucking comprehensive is it with all the holes that are in it? And of course, they didn't respond to that, but that's what I said.
Right.
I was irritated with that. So I'm just sorry, but I can't get past that.
I was laughing.
And how could you have a text message from someone named Erica who's accusing some kind of cheating thing, and then 2 of the people involved in that have to do with that text message, 2 of them wind up dead. I mean, I would think that you don't need to be freaking Perry Mason to figure out maybe I should interview Erica. Maybe we should start there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's continue with the. Go ahead. What you got?
I was just going to say, in my opinion, it's very, very possible that was horseshit. That never happened, and that was just another little thread to get people talking about. Because with all the other things in the case that we've been fed that turned out to not be true, why wouldn't something like that? And if it was true, then how is it? Anybody with any logic would know that was a thread you'd want to pull.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But supposedly she does exist. I don't know if the text message is real, but
the Erica thing. Yeah.
Bubbly Waters.
Bubbly Waters was showing pictures of who she
She found photos of it. She seems to have found who Erica is. If it's real, I don't know. If the text is real. Right.
Yes, sir.
And I won't even comment about all the photos that Bubbly was showing on the. Anyways, I'm gonna bite my tongue. Let's get back to this. This is the book. This is there's some juicy pieces of this book coming up I want to discuss as a group. Remember, This is from the book. According to Bill Thompson at Kohberger's change of plea hearing, the K-bar sheath was, quote, was tested by Idaho State Police Forensic Lab and single source male DNA. And he emphasized that at the sentencing as well. This is single source DNA, people. He wanted to make sure you knew this. Single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath. Though not widely known, records show that police also contacted the Department of Defense representative through the FBI's Salt Lake City division on December 1st, 2022, seeking to determine what would be required to have a K-bar sample run through the DoD's repository. It seems clear where Taylor is heading. And again, I realize this is complex. You want to read this when you're not listening to a whole panel discuss it. The timing of when they were, and again, what he's going to say is they were shopping the DNA to get a lab who would say it was Bryan Kohberger. They knew who they wanted, and they were shopping the DNA around to various labs to find somebody, and Othram failed. Othram didn't. That's why Othram Lab was essentially, according to the book, Othram Labs was fired because they were given one task, lead this to Bryan Kohberger, and they didn't. So they fired him, and the FBI took over and got it from a different way. All right.
Why DOD? I can only guess.
I'm pretty sure it was MyHeritage that the FBI used. It was the unsanctioned
Ancestry.com and MyHeritage, and
yes, those were the ones that were used that were not supposed to be used. They created his DNA, as far as I'm concerned. I'll just say that way.
Well, why would they run a sample through the DoD? Why would they want to run a sample through the Department of Defense? Let me think. Who in the periphery of this case would have been connected to the Department of Defense? I can't think of it. I just can't. I can't think of any single person involved in the periphery of this case that was connected with the Department of Defense.
And that's why we have State of the Deep on the show, is for those kind of, I wonder what kind of government fuckery is going on in this case.
I can't wait till I'm done with my CIA song about Joe. I just can't. I can't wait.
Look, I want to point something out, by the way. We're going to get into the book a little bit more, but I want to point something out. I asked the question the other day, and I don't think it's crazy anymore. They had such a small piece of DNA on the knife sheath, which, by the way, if you haven't been watching my series and you haven't been watching Crimes After Dark, the entire chain of custody on the knife sheath is suspicious. When the knife sheath actually showed up, which was 4 hours after the first walkthrough of the house and nobody saw the knife sheath, and then Payne shows up and all of a sudden 4 hours later they find the knife sheath, which was listed at one point as being on the floor and now all of a sudden was tucked under the leg of Maddie Mogan. All of those lead to questions of did they, and that's what Ann Taylor said. Even if you think you got Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath, it doesn't say how it got there. And she suggested that the knife sheath was planted or the DNA evidence was planted. And the question I'm asking now is, because the DNA was so small, is it a new trick that we can use that if you have a small enough sample, then you can use fuckery like genetic genealogy and get it to whoever you decide you want it to go to, so that you can say at the end of the day, we had DNA at the scene, but you can just use the fact that you had DNA as the premise for using investigative genetic genealogy to put it to whoever you need it to go to, and then say, yep, we had that person's DNA at the crime scene. When really all you had is DNA you couldn't tie to anybody, but once you decide who you want, you just tell people the DNA was at the scene. Do you follow where I'm going with that? Does it make any sense? Could they purposely used a sample so small that they could literally put it to whoever they want it to go to and then say, hey, his DNA was at the crime scene?
Or another scenario is you have somebody that's connected to the same very revered organization that the lead detective in the case was tied to, who we all know had something to do with that knife sheath, no matter how you slice it. No pun intended, and I wasn't meaning to be.
I know.
Morbid.
It did come out that way. I get it.
Right, but it's just a little bit too coincidental. All these little things. A guy with only a couple of years on the force there becomes the lead detective in the biggest murder case in the history of the state.
Right.
And oh, by the way, he happens to be somehow connected to, whether it be however many degrees of separation, to a guy who was in a really controversial, event that happened not long after the crime, who, also would have had connections to the DOD. And so to me, it would make logical sense to spell it out that and I've said it before, Payne is brought in as just a point man. He's not, quote unquote, really the lead investigator. He's the point guy.
Right.
Or the fixer, or the, however you want to put it.
Right.
And so then you could say that they would frame somebody in those circumstances. However, the connections to the funding, to operations in the area, all seem a little bit too convenient.
Yeah.
To me, for it to only be viewed as a traditional framing, as opposed to a patsy who's there by design.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, and there's a lot there. People watch the show all the time. They know who you're talking about when you're not talking about who you're talking about. And if you don't, then they'll have to get some foundational stuff on people like Kopaka and stuff like that. And go ahead, Dago.
What did you just say about talking about who you're talking about? You completely turned my head around on that one.
Yeah. Sorry about Kopaka.
And see, you even follow it, and you're still
he's
still
talking
like,
about
without saying.
Come on, you guys should be used to people
Yeah.
saying things without
saying
by
things.
now.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Holy shit,
He's
Robin,
sorry-
that just scared the hell out of me.
Wow.
That cat,
He's
that
sorry-
cat came
yeah,
out of
That
nowhere.
jumped out of nowhere. I was like, oh, okay.
He answered by circumventing around. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That was a
All right.
that was a Chris answer.
Let's get that was a Chris answer. Let's
Yes.
continue on to the bit of the book. And although we will return to Payne's testimony in a moment, we need a little context. According to a June 22nd, 2023, this is before the murders, filing, Ann Taylor's office, we know that the Idaho State Police announced on July 28th, 2021, years before the murders, that they had received the Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant to fund genetic genealogy testing through a company called Othram, a private Texas forensics laboratory. In the press release, Idaho State Police specifically mentions that Othram, quote, follows accepted laboratory procedures, processes and procedures, and complies with the United States Department of Justice interim policy on forensic genetic genealogy, DNA analysis, and searching, which they did not. Ann Taylor was pointing out, you violated your own policies because in order to get to my client, Bryan Kohberger, you used databases that you are not allowed to use in law enforcement, and you use them to get the you could not get the Bryan Kohberger through legitimate reasons that law enforcement can use, and you violated your own policies to get the Bryan Kohberger's name.
And Lee, what you said in the beginning before, the sample was too small. They not only did they do fuckery with that, they doubled the size. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah. No.
And this is the problem. This stuff is kind of over the heads of average Americans. Like, can you walk a jury through what they're doing, the fuckery that they're doing? Does a jury at some point of your average Joe Blow go, well, if they tell me the science says it's him, then the science says it's him? Will they follow the fuckery? Could Ann Taylor have led them by the hand to the fuckery that they did to say Bryan Kohberger's DNA was at the crime scene when it wasn't? Or would they just check out and go, you know, it's too scientific for me? They said the science says it's there, and so therefore the science says it's there.
It seems it fooled Hitler, because Hitler, what did he, his lines that he said, once
DNA
they said,
DNA
his DNA was
week.
there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the done case. They got his DNA. Why are we even talking about it? It's a done case. Yeah. So anyways, continue on to the chapter here. This will prove critically important moving forward because Ann Taylor is about, listen to this sentence, Ann Taylor is about to allege that Othram Labs was fired when they developed a single source male DNA profile on the K-bar knife sheath and couldn't match it to Kohberger. That's what she was alleging. They got fired and taken off the job because they didn't get it to Kohberger, who was already their suspect. They instead, Othram Labs developed that profile to 4 brothers who they said may have come from Pennsylvania, and none of them had the last name Kohberger. And by the way, as Chris will point out in this book, the names of those 4 brothers have been lost. They kept no notes. Oh my God, this is going to make my brain explode. They kept no notes of who the 4 brothers were, so it's lost to history. They can't even look how they got to Kohberger, as they took 4 brothers who no one is never allowed to know who they are. And they moved up the family tree from there over and back down to Kohberger and said, yep, it's Kohberger's DNA. And when you go to ask them, well, how did you get to that? Well, we can't show you because we don't have records on who the four brothers were anymore. Fuck, you had an end conclusion of Bryan Kohberger you wanted, and you could have just randomly said, I pulled some guy out of my ass who you're not going to know. And ultimately I went up a family tree and over and got it down to Kohberger. It's Kohberger. Well, who's that guy you started with? I don't know. I just pulled that out of my ass. Like, they don't have to show nothing. And they weren't going to show anything, and the DNA wasn't going to actually get into trial. I still believe that.
One thing too I wanted to mention is, all right, so you got 2 years in a row, Othram is the superstars of CrimeCon, right?
Right, right.
The centerpiece. Could it be you guys keep quiet about who you really found as DNA, because by all accounts it wasn't Bryan Kohberger, and you'll be rewarded for not letting people know who the actual people were that you found through your testing?
Yeah,
that's possible.
Yeah. And that they get to go around and continue to make money and get on the map. And literally, JJ was there with me. We had just met. We didn't even know each other hardly. We had a couple of drinks and sat in a bar and said, met. And then we went to Othram Labs, and they literally said, we had Bryan Kohberger in 5 days, and 1,000 people erupted into applause. Oh, you had Bryan Kohberger. And JJ and I are looking at us like, how the fuck did you have Bryan Kohberger? It was 4 brothers, none of which were named Bryan Kohberger. You didn't, and it didn't. And by the way, that didn't happen in 5 days. All of that was a flat out lie that they told from a center stage in Aurora, Colorado. I got a round of applause of 1,000+ people, whatever was in there, about how amazing it was that Othram Labs caught Bryan Kohberger. And the whole entire thing was a flat, bold-faced lie, in my opinion. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this is to me all part and parcel to the big picture. I mean, we looked into who funded, who's like the main investors in Othram Labs, and it's in many cases the usual suspects. And I think that either the first or second largest investor in Othram Labs is GigaFund, who funds all of Elon Musk's projects, which, as we all know, Elon Musk has numerous huge contracts with the CIA and NSA and the military. So again, I can't draw a direct line with that information. But a lot of times it's like we always say, if enough things are suspicious, then you don't need permission to connect dots.
Right. And again, their get out of jail free card for lying about everything is he pled guilty, so they can say whatever they want at this point. There will be no trial, and as Hitler stated, you do realize by pleading guilty, they never have to present proof of that they could have done. They don't have to prove anything they said. They could say you were a butt scratcher, and they don't have to prove nothing. Like they have to prove nothing. They can say anything they want about you at this point, and they don't have to prove it. You do realize that. And he said, yeah, I understand. They can say whatever they want about me. So that's where we're at. They'll say whatever they want and lie about what they were going to show when they didn't have it. All right, a few more quotes here. To be clear, Ann Taylor's line of questioning is implying that Brett Payne, the lead detective in charge of the case, knew about the Idaho State Police shopping his DNA evidence in search of a predetermined match. That's what the book's telling you. Chris is saying Ann Taylor's line of questioning shows she believed they already had Bryan Kohberger on the mind, and they were shopping his DNA to labs to get somebody to say it was Bryan Kohberger because they already knew who they wanted. It was not that they developed DNA and found Bryan Kohberger's name and said, oh, look, it's Bryan Kohberger. Now let's put the pieces together. No, it worked the other way. I know it's Bryan Kohberger, so make the fucking DNA match. That's what they did. And if she's correct, this continues, then the impact on Thompson's case would have been seismic, to say the least. It would have completely tossed out everything. Again, Ann Taylor has established that MPD sent the K-bar knife sheath or DNA that was found on it to the ISP crime lab for analysis. From there, it was sent to Othram, the private lab in Texas. At some point in December 2022, the ISP discontinued their work with Othram, retrieved the evidence, and then sent it to the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia. According to Payne, the motivation boiled down to database size. What Taylor wants to prove is that the police already believed that the DNA belonged to Bryan Kohberger, but did not have a large enough pool of comparables to prove it, so they fired Othram Labs and sent their sample to an agency that did. That's a big fucking sentence.
Yeah.
Taylor does not follow up with what seems to be the obvious question. In what reality would DNA identification of a killer by the FBI be treated as, quote, no more than a tip? That's what the FBI always said. When they came back with Bryan Kohberger's DNA is on the knife sheath, they said, by the way, treat this as no more than a tip. Why would it be no more than a tip? If you have his DNA, you have his DNA. They didn't have his DNA, and they're telling you when they say, don't treat this as DNA, treat it as just a tip. Bryan Kohberger is the name you should be looking for. People just do not understand. They don't understand what the prosecution didn't have. They didn't have Bryan Kohberger's DNA at the crime scene.
I would like to know where we're at right now with the book coming out and with all the various information that we've all seen and body cam footage and documents and so on. I would like to know what people's theories are at this point, because everybody has got to have a theory about what they think actually happened. I mean, we've gone pretty far down the road, and a lot of new information has come out.
Yeah. I would like to know as well.
Yeah.
I would like to know how mainstream media is in questioning this. I want to read one more paragraph, and then we don't have to read the rest, although there are dates and times of exactly when Othram got the sample and exactly when it got taken back by the FBI if you want the dates. But I want to read this paragraph because this is a big one as well, one that just kind of should shock you. For those unfamiliar with the 3 years of media coverage, this is the lead detective in charge of the cases plainly stating under oath that to his knowledge, the FBI never said they found Bryan Kohberger's DNA in the knife sheath. How is it possible that after 3 years of assurances from the Latah County prosecutor attorney Bill Thompson that the DNA proves guilt beyond reasonable doubt, that his lead investigator states under oath it did not? Payne said, the FBI never said Bryan Kohberger's DNA was on the knife sheath. And yet Bill Thompson stood up there and over again said, single source DNA is on that knife sheath, and it's Bryan Kohberger's. And she questions Brett Payne. Is that true? No, actually, nobody in the FBI said it was Bryan Kohberger's DNA. But Bill Thompson said it over and over again, or at least led you to believe through fuckery of language. It's insane, people. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you have the lead detective admitting no one ever said Bryan Kohberger's DNA is on the knife sheath, and most people in America and that worldwide think Bryan Kohberger's DNA was still at the crime scene?
Including the judge.
And by the way,
Yeah.
even the judge. And even if you buy, look, even myself question this. God damn it. All right. So, they used a statistical number. Well, we're not saying Bryan Kohberger's DNA is on the knife sheath. What we're saying is it's 99.999, some ridiculous number of decimals, likely that Michael Kohberger is the biological father of the male DNA on the sample. And then that leads you to, aren't they saying the same thing? If Michael Kohberger only has one son and it's Bryan Kohberger and it's male DNA that's a biological son of Michael Kohberger, it's the same thing as saying Michael Kohberger's. No, but they wanted to make sure you were clear. They didn't say it. They just said it's a biological son. But what Ann Taylor pointed out and people missed is really that sample led to hundreds of potential relatives. It wasn't just it's Bryan Kohberger's son. They again led you through fuckery. It was hundreds of people that potentially, and again, that's all ignoring the fact that they won't tell you the 4 brothers they started working up the family tree, over the family tree, and back down to get to in the first place. Oh my God.
Well, a question I've never heard asked is, what if Michael Kohberger, right? Michael, his father, had other sons.
I looked into it. I don't remember him having any other sons. I think he has like 3 daughters and a son, or 2 daughters.
Well, I'm talking about
from another relationship or something.
He didn't have to be married. He didn't have to have, like it doesn't have to be something that's openly known.
Right. Right. I mean,
it's possible it could be, but the odds are probably kind of low. But it is an interesting theory.
Because it's Pennsylvania. It's four people. Now we all know what our other theory is. I realize that, but I'm just sidestepping to mention just a question that you would want to ask. If it's Pennsylvania, I know they're originally from Brooklyn. By the way, they're from the same part of Brooklyn that I'm from, the Kohbergers.
Right.
Like literally the same part.
And the lab that got to him is right there, isn't it? The lab is like,
well, the I don't know if you're meaning this. The lab that makes
factory?
K-bar knives, the lab that makes the knife sheaths is in Pennsylvania.
That's what I'm talking about.
So anybody that works at the factory could have deposited a piece of skin cell on the knife sheath, and that would have led to somebody in Pennsylvania that works at the factory where the knife sheath was made as a potential contributor of the source.
I mean, it could be a 35th cousin, twice removed, 3 times backwards, stepped on twice, for all we know, that's related to him somehow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If that blood is in their system, that's all there is to it, or DNA. I'm sorry, not blood.
And the thing that I feel like is going overlooked is it's worse than that. It's not even just that it could be some related person to Kohberger. It's only related to Kohberger because they told you it was. They never showed you how they got it to Kohberger's family. Right. And they told you they got it from some unrelated family, working up the family tree over till they found a common ancestor and worked back down. They might as well have told you. What they did was they knew who they wanted to have the DNA be. So they went up until they found a common ancestor that they can move over, because all of us start to fucking merge together the further up the family tree you go. Somewhere up there, they didn't even tell you how far they had to go. Somewhere up there, they found somebody that was married to somebody in some family tree that can move that shit from one family line to the other, and then told you, don't worry about it. We're not going to show the work. We don't have to show you how we got there. Trust us, bro. Yes. We got from one family to his family, and that's how we did it.
Like I said. Go ahead, JJ.
No, I was just going to say, because of the DOD thing, what I just said is not what I ideally think happened. I was just pointing out that would have been a question that you should have been asked early on if there were other siblings not directly in that family, but because of the DOD, why would you want to search a DOD database, right?
Same reason why they have the national security tab stuck on top of this whole thing. In my opinion, there's a relation there somewhere, JJ. Truly, in my opinion. So
Susan Russo asked a question. I want that question back up. Susan Russo asked a question, and I was trying to get the timing. Bryan Kohberger left Pullman, Washington, with his father, Michael Kohberger, I believe, on the 12th or 13th of December, because remember, Kopacka was shot and killed on, I think, the 15th of December. Him and his dad, Kohberger, had left just the day before the shooting. And they were still on their travels back to Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
So we know that their travel back to Pennsylvania happened somewhere around the 14th or the 15th of December. So Susan Russo says, how did WSUPD see Bryan Kohberger's car in the parking lot on the 19th if Bryan already left for Pennsylvania on the 14th or 15th? Did they say that they saw, because Bryan was driving his car, his white Elantra with his dad, right? So did they say they saw Bryan Kohberger's car, the white Elantra, on the 19th after he was already gone across the country back to Pennsylvania? I'm asking the question because I didn't remember that.
Yeah, that's the date that if they said that, it's not true. If that's what they said,
I don't think that was.
If they said it, it's not true, because he was clearly with his dad driving his car,
right?
So.
And Tomboy said something else to go well before that, I was going to say, but how did they get the info on Bryan Kohberger and his car before the DNA was sent to the FBI? That's the question right there.
And that's what the chapter is dealing with, is when did they know what and in what order did they do it in?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
The tip. Why him? So there's no connection, right, of him to any of the victims. So what?
So Tara, thank you for the donation. Thoughts? ?
Thank you.
They do have a knife. Frat interviews. I don't believe they have they never have the knife in the crime. They've never said they had the knife in the crime.
No.
They found. Here's what a lot of people don't know. They found lots of weird knives. They found knives in Genesee in a ditch that had wrapped up tape on the handle for grips, stuff like that. That they found knives all over the place in the gutter of a place.
Yeah, the gutter.
Drain, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and let's address that too. Address that. So
found everywhere.
The whole thing with the K-bar knife, if you look at the documents, there's nothing that says that the K-bar knife is the one that did all the damage. It says none of the forensic experts, none of them, even Sutton from the prosecution, none of them said the K-bar knife made. Well, I think maybe with Sutton, I think the language was it could possibly be but it was never. What do you mean? It could possibly be if you get the K-bar knife that you think it is, and you measure the wounds, you measure. This isn't like possible. You can exactly. You measure it.
I mean, in any other crime I've ever seen, even in OJ's case, they knew the type of blade that was used in that case,
right?
Because they measured and did different things to point out. I mean, you can't always get an exact, exact, but you can get real close to it. Nothing matched up on this, from my understanding.
But it's the same that they did with every other horseshit thing in this case. It's consistent.
I want to show you some other knives that I believe showed up in the case of investigation on this. Let me see if I can put some of this up here. Let's remove this and let's put. How do we do this? There's one.
It looks like a damn.
Is that? How about the knife
with the duct tape on the handle? Yeah.
And how about the knife that Hunter? What about the knife that Hunter picked up?
There you go.
These knives were found.
That was a paring knife.
These knives were found.
Right. Barber.
I think they were found like this in a drainage ditch in Genesee, which was outside the area. So. That's a picture of the knife right there. You can kind of see laying there. I don't know if you can see it very well, but in the middle.
Yeah, it's right there in the middle.
So look, the reason why that's important is another thing that the book makes, and I already caught it before the book. No one definitively said ever that any of the wounds were caused by a K-bar knife. What they said is the wounds were consistent with a fixed blade knife, like a K-bar knife.
Yep.
Again, fuckery of language. No one ever said it was the K-bar knife.
That's their favorite word. They love that stupid word.
Consistent with. Yeah, they like saying that phrase with everything. It's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. It's just fuckery of language, and so many people fuckery with language. Pinging off the cell tower that services the house at 1122 King Road residents, or lost connection with the cell tower. But in my opinion, many criminals turn off their phone when going to a crime scene. They never said he turned off his phone. They said he lost service, which is consistent with someone who have turned off their phone. They did not say he turned off his phone. Language. People need to learn language.
Yes, exactly, Lee. It's become very well evident that the favorite meal of Moscow, Idaho, PD, law enforcement, prosecutors' offices, word salad with bullshit dressing on it, because that's everything in their documents.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Said. Yeah.
It is absolute, folks.
Right. The consistent with nonsense, and then their one, great, amazing witness who answers the question, who gives 10 answers to every
answer. Every answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really believe the answer to questions like where's the testing on the knife comes from this. And I can't prove this. This is an opinion. But just like the book pointed out that hair that was blonde-ish colored in Ethan's hand that indicates he probably ripped it off the head of his attackers, they believed the attacker was Bryan Kohberger. Bryan Kohberger doesn't have sandy brown hair. Nope. Therefore, it must be debris. They don't test things that will rule out and give exculpatory evidence that suggests somebody else did it. So if the knife was tested ever and it came out that it had some blood on it that didn't belong to one of the victims or whatever, it would just be listed as not relevant and not related to the crime.
Exactly.
They would just dismiss everything.
Yep.
Right. And you know what's sad? and they knocked down the damn house that probably
And
has
they knocked down the damn house.
it probably has a ton of other stuff.
I'll bet you
that
there
would
was
lead-
so much more evidence in
Yep.
that damn house
So
and
much
they
more.
knew that.
Yeah,
They
I
knew
know.
that.
I know.
One thing I would like to do at some point is go back, because I haven't really gone through all of the crime scene photos again, just the certain ones that we've talked about on here specifically.
Yeah.
Is just
Yeah.
because, again, I'm just going based on my theories and my gut to see if anybody can see if there's any little sections blurred out on the wall that could be indicative of from a gunshot.
Yeah.
There was a section in Maddie's bedroom. Tomboy pointed it out a long time ago, and it shows from the outside of the house. It's through the siding. It looks like, and we looked at it, like super looked at it, blew it up,
Yeah. We
analyzed
spoke about this.
Yeah, one talked about it too because I asked his opinion, and it looks like if it was a bullet hole, that the bullet came from the inside of the house through the outside. If it is a bullet hole, it's just one hole. And it is interesting. It's up there right on the back outside wall of Maddie's bedroom, right above where her bed would have been. So it's interesting, very interesting. And I got to give full credit. Tomboy picked that out years ago. Well, I mean, she said it years ago, but then pointed it out when we got the documents and the photo dump. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. And so, yeah, that's a good point, JJ. Very good point.
It was just something that I had not thought to look deeply for. I looked for like obvious, like if there's anything obvious, right? We all looked at all those crazy photos and you know, try to make sense of it. But more recently, because of some of the things DA and I spoke about on the phone for freaking 3 hours the other day, it made me start thinking about that again.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I guess in the end for me, I don't think every single thing that we come upon that we all discuss that looks like, you know, obfuscating or a cover up.
Right.
I have to be able to say why.
Yeah. Right.
Why did they do it?
That's the question I always say. When you're going to come up with a theory that something happened that completely challenges the narrative, at least give us a why, and so that we can try to go, why would that have happened? It's a good question. Real quick before it gets unpinned, Mitchell Callahan says it's been said that Enan got a haircut right after the crime and had big bumps and a big sore on his head. What color hair did Enan have? I can't remember.
Enan had dark hair. Yeah. Really dark. Almost black. And I want to clarify something too. I have not been one of the a real big on the whole gunshot thing. I haven't. I'm not, but don't get me wrong. I will listen to, think about, break down, and try to figure out anything at all. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying, when Tomboy pointed that out, I said, "Holy shit, that's interesting," you know. And I still will look at it truly and honestly. It's just
I mean, there's so much we don't know. That we haven't been told about certain things. Like, for example, it was never really explained why Nunez thought suicide, and just DA, you touched on this, DA, I think yesterday or the day before.
Yep.
That would imply just logically that he was implying murder or suicide. Obviously, three other dead bodies. So I'm sure we can all come up with reasons that would explain that as a possibility of why he would come to that conclusion. But one of those conclusions is because he saw a gunshot wound.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to be clear. I don't think at the time that Nunez said that he knew. Technically, he didn't know about the two bodies upstairs. So yeah, there was three other dead bodies, or three total other dead bodies other than his. But I think they walked in originally on that first scene, Ethan and Xana, and that's when he said, "Looks like a murder suicide to me."
Right.
They didn't even know about the girls upstairs at that point.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, and Chris made reference to this. I don't know if it was in Lana's one of the interviews. He was like, you watch these body cameras, and I've said a bunch of stuff like, these officers on scene, they see a body, and then the guy, he goes back out to get crime scene tape. I mean, that's not what you do. You should be checking. You should be clearing the whole house immediately.
Right.
Like,
that's what I was going to ask you. One. If you were to walk in like Nunya, Nunez. The way
Nunez,
Nunez
yeah.
walked into that room, if you know what's in that room based on what we know, okay? If you, as a police officer, walked into that scene, walked into that room, what would your first reaction, your first instinct be? What would you do? So, like, walk us through that real quick, if you don't mind.
Well, first off, Hunter would have been handcuffed immediately. I mean,
Right?
you don't know who's
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
He's walking around with a
Yeah,
knife.
he's
I
got a
mean,
knife.
Exactly.
so he would have been cuffed, and you would have asked for, immediately you would have said, I need some other units here to, if you establish that it's a homicide, you assume it's a dead body, you got to clear the house.
Right.
You got to clear the house.
Right.
So you would put over right away. I have a possible homicide. I need some other units here forthwith. And you would be clearing the house with your partner.
Right.
And then that locked door would have been smashed to pieces. You don't need a warrant.
Yep.
Eventually, of course, you're gonna get a warrant for the house to go through all the stuff. That's not unheard of, but you don't need a warrant at that second. It's called an exigent circumstance.
Exactly.
Somebody's wanting. So I wanted to go back to Hunter and the knife thing in a second, but somebody said,
Sure.
JJ, check out that comment. What was the comment?
How long?
Yeah, how long do they keep evidence up for a homicide? That's a loaded question. I mean, first of all, they had evidence, refrigerators that went out and evidence was ruined and stuff like that. Things about fire happened. Like, I don't know that there's a requirement to keep the evidence around a certain amount of time. Is there a holding? Is there like a recommended holding time, on NYPD, like murder crimes, that you guys keep evidence around in evidence?
Yeah, I mean, they keep it as far as I know. They don't get rid of stuff
ever.
Not from a homicide.
Tell us, Senor. I saw your comment. Yeah, I knew about that, about Chris's involvement with a DNA type of company, if that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, that's in the book. Christopher Whitcomb admits that he's been involved with the DNA company before, so that's why he knows enough to write the chapter on the DNA evidence, because he says, hey, by the way, I know a thing or two about DNA because I used to work for this company.
I looked into his background reasonably thorough.
I want to point out, by the way, just briefly again, the knife in Hunter's hand, because that was another thing that comes out in the book. Somebody lied about, well, I don't want to say lie, that's a strong word. Somebody miswrote in a report about the knife being on the table, the serrated knife that Hunter had picked up and cleared the house with or whatever, being on the table when they showed up. But as Christopher says, when you watch the body cam footage, you can actually hear the officer telling him to put it down, and you can hear him put it down on the table. So it's not true that they found it laying on the table. Hunter still had the knife in his hand, as evidenced by body camera footage that we may or may not have seen. I don't know if we've seen it or not. But the point being is that I want to reiterate this. Dr. Turvey said that multiple edged weapons were used to commit this crime, including serrated blades. There's no way an officer who with 2 years of experience comes on and immediately determines that serrated knife couldn't have been the knife that caused all of the wounds that he saw.
Yeah, or one of them.
So how does he immediately clear Hunter Johnson?
Thank you.
Holding a knife at a crime scene where somebody's been cut up to pieces and not go, drop the fucking gun and put your hands on top of your head and arrest that guy until you figure out what's going on. You should detain him until you figure out what the fuck's going on.
He wouldn't have been necessarily arrested, but
not arrested. I used the wrong word, arrested.
However,
detained.
My favorite word. This fits the bill to a Terry stop.
A Terry stop, yeah. Right. He should have been secured, not arrested. That was the wrong choice of word. He should have been secured, and until they figured out that he was, conclusively not involved with the crime, and they didn't seem to do that.
At least detained.
Yeah. Kaylee's face was destroyed with a polycitrine jewelry box. I've never heard
we know
that
that?
before.
How do we know that?
Don't ask how I know. Don't ask how I know. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Conley.
Well, John Conley pulls that shit right. And look, maybe John Conley knows something we don't know about the crime scene because we can't ask about it. But as soon as I read that, how would you know that? And then immediately I get to the next sentence. Don't ask how I know.
Polystyrene. So it's plastic, basically.
Could it be possible? Sure, because Kaylee they did say Kaylee had evidence of being hit in the face with a blunt object. We don't know what that blunt object is. Remember, Dylan maybe saw the killer leaving with a box-like device in their hand. Was it a jewelry box that was used? Who knows?
Got the wrong comment. Yeah.
So and by the Senor, I
just want to address this real quick. I saw this. So yes, this the other big thing that pisses me off, and which shows no follow-up, and you don't have to be thinking really big outside the box. You interview people, and especially if you're interviewing, 2 or 3 people or 4 people, usually all about the same incident, like about, what happened in this 10 minutes or this half hour. That's
right.
The easiest way to figure out sometimes what the hell happened, because usually someone possibly will slip up and say like, we made a left turn. Like 3 people say we made a right turn, and 1 person says a left turn, and you're like, we got him. And then you follow up. Well,
right.
Emily did an interview, and I think she was, well, not only was she legit, I believe, right, in one of the body cameras, we see the knife at the top of the stairs from one of the whatever officers on scene. We actually see it. She says the knife was at the top of the stairs. Hunter says he got it from the kitchen. Well, both can't be true. So
right. There's a lot of things that can't be true in this case.
Yep.
And yet, I hate saying this, but yet their answer is, at the end of the day, they don't have to prove any of it was true because Bryan Kohberger pled guilty.
And Senor Wazowski, I didn't see your earlier comment. The one before that, I scrolled and I looked for it, but I couldn't find it. So I
think he was just talking about the one about the Andy thing, Joe.
Well, he said that it was the one before that. He made another comment, and I missed it. I looked for it.
Got you. I'm sorry about that. Then that's the one I thought he was talking about.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Maybe rewrite it in chat there, Senor. That might help.
I mean, a lot of this is what we've been saying all along. It's like for every step of the way,
right,
all these things happen, and it's very convenient to point to incompetent or suggest incompetence when it seems like a much more coordinated level of fuckery.
It's coordinated incompetence. Exactly.
Because you can always write it off.
Removed. Yeah. It probably was. Senior says, I think it was removed, which happens because YouTube don't like things we say sometimes.
Yeah.
No, come on. We don't say anything controversial.
Bitch, please. All right. Do you guys have any, like, I read a lot of reading and I don't want to necessarily read more. Do you guys have any more thoughts? I know a lot of us have read the entire advanced copy of the book or whatever. We've seen it, we know it, or now some of you have it in your hands. Any other thoughts on that chapter that basically suggested that they already decided that Kohberger was the guy they wanted, and then they shopped the DNA to somebody that would say it was Kohberger's DNA?
That's what I believe.
Yeah. The big question is just, which I don't know if we'll ever know, maybe, is why.
So
why?
So do you want to, before I get into that question a little bit further, do we want to answer this? The Senior Wazowski co-founded Watch House International for secure infrastructure projects and served as chief advocacy officer at this is about Christopher Whitcomb, right?
That's the one I thought it was.
Okay.
Yeah, collaboration for the CIA. I mean, I've been saying, that you have to be, we'd be doing ourselves a disservice and everybody else if you don't look into someone's background. He openly discussed his work with the intelligence agencies. So when fuckery is involved and potentially bigger picture type fuckery, you always have to be aware and you have to pay attention to things.
Thank you, Jen S, for reaching out to Brent Turvey. I've got several people who have reached out to Brent Turvey to see if Brent Turvey will talk to us. He has talked to other people, so I mean, he's talked to several YouTubers, not on and off.
Like,
we'll see.
And Turvey, some people, I mean, we've spoken about it, but some people don't realize. Chris actually went into detail about it as well. Turvey was brought on very late, and he was only brought on to evaluate the knife sheath, and then he did further stuff after that. But he was brought on very late.
Somebody challenged me on that and said, "Why do you keep saying Brent Turvey was brought on late? He was brought on at the very beginning." And I don't think he was brought on. In the very beginning.
No, he wasn't.
No, he was not.
This would have been completely different, I think, if he would have been brought in the very beginning. I mean, think about that.
Yeah,
and it's a shame that he wasn't.
It even said that his report, when he handed his report over to the defense, 4 days later, the plea deal came down. So it was. That's why I said the other day. Can you imagine if he'd have given his report to Ann Taylor the week before? It would have changed.
And let me just explain about Turvey. So Turvey, he has many things that he's very good at. I've mentioned it a few times on here. He's got a YouTube channel collaboration thing called The Hard Truth. He is a staging crime scene expert. He's been involved many times. He can show you all the check boxes that come up, and he's also very big into the I think Lee mentioned it, the femicide, which seems to be a big thing in like Latin America and South America. But he is huge into staging crime scene. In fact, on his channel, he makes reference to, I remember the person's name, someone authored some kind of whole big documentary on it that
I want to clarify the way
him and he didn't even get credit for it.
I want to clarify, because the way you're wording it, I know the way I'm hearing what you're saying, I know is not what you mean. Brent Turvey doesn't help stage crime scenes. What he's saying is Brent Turvey knows how to identify when a crime scene has been staged. You're like, he's a staging expert, not meaning that he knows how to. I mean, I'm sure he does know how to stage a crime scene, but Brent Turvey calls out signs of crime scenes being staged, is what he's saying.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that too, because and anybody who's been following this case from the beginning knows that before they had a suspect or anybody arrested, they probably had suspects. All the different channels and the court TV, all those different shows and Law and Crime, whatever, would have all these forensic investigator panels and things like that. And one of the things that was said, which is what I learned in forensic psychology, because if a crime is more appears more close quarter crime, like as with a knife or physical blunt force, right? All of them agreed. They all separately said that implies that they had something against the victims. And oftentimes you look at who was more brutally killed and so on. And also a common thing that profilers used to talk about, I don't know if they still do, is that crimes committed with like knives can have a sexual component to them, right? And I believe I read that in John Douglas. He founded the behavioral analysis unit at the FBI, and I've read that in his books. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So a knife, you got to get real close. I mean, I know there's different size knives, but you're getting close.
Right. And so Kohberger has no history of violent crime, and by their admission, no connection to any of the victims. That completely goes against that theory, unless they're lying about that too, that he did have connections, in which case, why would they not tell the public that?
Yeah, great question. I don't know if you want to answer before I do that. Wade Bird asked, Devil's Advocates, can you answer this? How did Anne not see the bed frame and the hair earlier up when she walked the house? Did the autopsy not reveal the hair early up? So it's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
Even the author, Christopher Whitcomb, questions why Ann Taylor didn't challenge some of these things and leaves it for you to just say, how did she not mention this earlier? How did Brent Turvey walk in there, 2.5 years later and see that the hair is still stuck to the bed frame in evidence at that time, and then sees the autopsy photos and sees the hair in the hand and sees all these things? And and I think the book even indicates Turvey was curious how Anne had missed that. So therefore I don't have an answer for you other than people wonder, did Ann Taylor do her best? Was Ann Taylor just overwhelmed? And there's people, and I'm not saying this, but there are people who think Ann Taylor threw that case.
Yes.
That she intended to lose, that this was not really, it was in the works that it was going to go to a plea deal and it's never going to go to trial. Is that the case? I don't know, but there are people who think that. There are people who think Ann Taylor might have been working for the same people that were convicting and basically just put up a front. And I'm not saying that's the case, but it's out there in the ether because she missed some very, very big things. So what do you deal with that? You've got moments where Ann Taylor's cleverly laying down foundation that Brett Payne lied about when they knew about Kohberger, and so that makes it look like she's doing the right thing. She's defending her client and she's laying the foundation to blow that shit up in trial. So she is doing a good thing. But did she roll over at the end and just go, well, fuck it, I got shit to do? I don't know. Like
I think she
seemed deflated.
Yeah,
she
I was
did
going to
seem
say
deflated,
that. Yeah. I think she just was done with Hitler wasn't giving her a damn thing on anything, and I think she just had enough.
Robin, real quick.
She was like beating her head against the wall essentially, and he wasn't he was being jury trying the case for the prosecution. So I just think she was just fed up and just couldn't get anywhere at that point.
Right, Robin, in the private chat, I put a link to one of Brent Turvey's YouTube channels. It's called the Forensic Criminology Institute.
Yeah,
he's got some very very interesting stuff in there about like criminal profiling, criminology, and ecological victimology. All of it.
I believe. I think his first episode is on serial rape. I believe. I remember.
Ariana asked the question, by the way, why did Kaylee have a credit card running machine and 10 bank accounts? And I will say,
thank you.
It's a great question.
I brought this up a few times. I don't think it's been real popular with the panel, but I brought this up a few times. Even Chris said there's an extortion case out of Pennsylvania that somehow is tied to this, and I don't know how that's tied to so were the girls running some kind of, it used to be a crazy theory and I wouldn't even say it. Now I'm willing to say it. Were the girls running some kind of OnlyFans type thing? Were they charging people money? Did they have a credit card bank thing because they were charging people money? And did somebody get extorted by some way? Either the girls got extorted or somebody got extorted by the girls. And did that lead to a violent murder? It's another motive.
Yeah,
there's like a million motives potentially.
And I remember another thread that was a while ago. Maybe you probably remember. It was something involved with Kaylee, because she was into the true crime, and it was something about that she like discovered some kind of ID theft, like ring or something. Do you remember? There was something about some ID theft or something.
I know at one point it was stated that she was looking up registered sex offenders in the area.
Well, there's that,
and then she was also looking into a woman that had gone missing in that area. That she tried to help with there.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing, I don't think I've heard that. That's new to me.
Yeah, there was something. It was a while ago. I don't remember where it came from. It was something with some identity theft thing, but that wouldn't explain why she has, multiple bank accounts. I mean, there could be many. There could be many reasons. I mean,
it's stated that she had the possibility that she had an OnlyFans as well.
Yeah.
The thing was brought up way early on, which, I'm not saying it's true, but what was it called? Sugar babies or something that was talked about that could relate to the OnlyFans. there's many options that it could be, and none of it is
And you know what's interesting about that,
bad.
Dago? You know what's interesting? That girl who I'm so bad with names. The girl that she was supposed to move to Texas with, that did the victim.
Quizno.
Yeah. So
Can't think of
if
her
you
first
look
name.
at that,
Jesse,
if you
was
look,
it?
I don't remember her
No.
name. But if you
I'll
look
get
at the
it for you.
document, although part of it, some of her answers are redacted, she's asked in that questionnaire about do you know of OnlyFans or sugar babies or
Right.
anything like that? And she said no, that they didn't have, that Kaylee didn't have it. So she lied.
Well, and it probably to protect her own integrity because her name probably folds
Maybe.
in with
Yeah.
that somewhere too. But yeah,
Right. Right.
I know
So
her last
what?
name's Quizno. I can't think of her first name right
Yeah.
now. I'm looking.
What do we know about the extortion case?
We know that it showed up in I think it showed up in the cast data or the cellular data, AT&T data that FBI had, where they had listed it as an attached related crime, and it just had a number on it. It was a related extortion case with a number. It didn't state where that case was from. It was Chris that I heard that piqued my interest when Chris on an interview said there was there's an extortion case related out of PA, and I was like, well, that's fucking new, because I didn't even know the extortion case was out of Pennsylvania. So that made it much more interesting to me. Now, did Chris just slip up and didn't mean PA or got it confused with something else? I don't know, because when I look up that number, I only see just a generic extortion case that I don't know what it is. And it was from like 2025, so it was late in the game. It was, the extortion case was tacked on years after the murders, so I don't know.
And it makes you wonder, was somebody being extorted? Is that what provoked this? Maybe. I mean, you got to think about it.
Like I said, we talk about the sexual element. Okay, Kaylee was a rage kill, which suggests jealousy or whatever. You cheated on me, so I'm going to bash your face and whatever. But another thing that would cause a rage kill is you humiliate a male by having him do something embarrassing on camera, and then you tell him, I'm going to extort you for money if you don't pay up, and that person going to be like, I'm going to fucking end that, and you piss me off, I'm going to mess you up. Kind of like that could cause somebody to rage out if you were threatening to humiliate them with some.
Her name was Jordan Quizno.
Jordan.
That's it. Yeah, Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the girl supposedly that was going to go live with her in Texas. She was also part of my understanding, I was told, and this could just be a rumor, that she was part of the group that was working with the pest control agency at one point, that was going door to door.
EcoShield.
Whatever.
EcoShield,
EcoShield thing too. Now, if that's true, I don't know, guys. I'm just giving you things I've heard.
Yeah.
But that's who it was, Jordan Quizno.
Yeah, you would think that extortion thing would have been a pretty important thing
to
release.
Yeah.
Unless they're, again, another thing that they don't want to get out to the public, right?
Maybe it's the basis, JJ. Maybe it's the basis for everything, and it didn't come out until later. And that's when they are, for some people, I should say. And then they're like, no, we can't put this out there. But I agree with you. It should be.
Yeah. I mean, it's just also, it could have been, like I said the other night, it could have been the other way around. Like DA was saying, it wasn't like, a person was trying to extort them and reveal that they were doing certain things online, right? It's probably more likely that the females had dirt on somebody and may have been seeing if they could milk some money out of it. But either way, that would be an important thing to release to the public. Hey, does anybody have more information about this?
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. And honestly, folks, not just anybody is going to have a credit card reader in their possession for no reason.
I know.
No.
You got to think
it's a
about
big
that,
deal.
okay?
It's a big deal.
I think it's bigger than people think it is. Somebody in my chat, Mitch Girl, said that, it was brought up a couple of years ago. Nobody ever talked about it. And again, that was the whole shaming. We can't do that because it makes one of the victims look bad. And again, that's not what we're doing. We're
not shaming anyone. Yeah.
Asking questions about things of importance. If you have a credit card reader in your house, you're doing something with it. You're not just going to have it there for shits and giggles for just any other rainy day.
It goes to victimology.
Right. And if they were able to make whatever, a ton of money doing whatever, all power to him. But now
Yep.
we have this weird extortion like thing, kind of, it makes you wonder.
I mean, it's a definitely a big bump in the road now, in my opinion, and I definitely think it needs to be thought about, and it can't just be passed on again. Like, that's what happens with some of these things is they will pass this stuff on and they'll forget about it. Don't worry about it. Not us, sorry, but it can't be forgotten about because it could end up being a key, component
we need to
thing.
track down that extortion case and find out more about it. We need to do a public records request on the extortion case.
Because if that extortion thing leads us to 4 brothers in Pennsylvania, well then,
or anything for that matter, right?
Right, but it just, since the DNA really, based on what we know now, we've known for a while, connected to 4 brothers in Pennsylvania. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty damn important.
Agreed.
And why is it not openly discussed?
And it almost seems, JJ, like one of those things that was passed by and buried very quickly on purpose.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Many things like that, just like they did in Delphi. They buried shit, and 6 years pass on, and then poof. Oh, now, we found this, we found that. Here we go. It's almost like that's what they were trying to do with this case in a lot of aspects, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pamela, yes, the credit card reader. There's a picture of it. I mean, I don't know the number of there's a picture of the credit card reader.
I remember when we were going through those photos, just scanning through it when they first dropped, and I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
It's sitting there, nice and neat, in a little basket.
Let's talk a little bit. I did a little sleuthing on that extortion case. I want to read for you what I picked up from just a quick AI search. The reference is to an FBI case ID 9A-SU-368-3464-CAST, sometimes stylized as, and then it has a shorter version, or similar variants or filings, classified under extortion-aggravated or overt threats. This is not a separate extortion prosecution or unrelated criminal case against someone else. It is the FBI's internal case designation, likely from their cellular analysis survey team, CAST unit, tied directly to the University of Idaho for a murder investigation. It appeared in public court documents in 2025 as part of a discovery and motions in Bryan Kohberger's criminal case, primarily Ada County case, and they gave the court case number. And then it says it shows up in an FBI electronic communications EC report by a special agent, Nicholas Balance, regarding AT&T timing advance records and other cellular data. The synopsis links it to Kohberger as the subject. The 4 victims, it says Gonzalez, Mogan, Canodal, Chapin, Moscow PD assistance, and the extortion, aggravated, or overt threats classification. This again, AI can get it wrong, but they say that extortion case is tied to Kohberger and the victims. An extortion case that came out late in the discovery, very late, came out in discovery in 2025, related to Kohberger and the murders, an extortion case. This was filed under seal as exhibit number 4. And the defense objections and motions related to the AT&T timing advance records in April of 2025. So very late in the game, Ann Taylor discovered this. It was Exhibit 4, and they objected to this extortion case being attached, and it was sealed. Nobody's allowed to see it. Similar references appear in other 2025 filings tied to vehicle forensics and digital evidence. The extortion label is an FBI categorization for the overall investigation, possibly due to threats, digital stalking elements, or internal coding for violent crimes with coercive aspects. Not evidence of a literal extortion plot separate from the murders. It surfaced publicly amid the large document releases after Kohberger's sentencing in mid-2025. So after he was sentenced, the document came out that, by the way, there was an extortion element to this related to possible threats, digital stalking, or internal coding for violent crimes with a coercive aspect, none of which fit the official narrative of Bryan Kohberger. None of which. So how is there an extortion case still under seal related to Bryan Kohberger and the murders?
Why under seal? Why is it still under seal?
why is anything under seal?
Well, if it was related to the people that they originally had some connection to in Pennsylvania, and Kohberger was inserted into the case, well, of course, you're going to transfer everything over to the guy that you've arrested for the crimes, right? So if he really had no direct traceable connection to the crime other than the circumstantial things that they told us, it could be it's sealed because it wasn't actually him. He was just inserted into the big picture, and thus anything related to it.
Maybe.
Let me ask this question. Question. Let's try this one more time. Let me ask this question. There we go.
Yes. Great.
Okay. So Bryan Kohberger, we know, studied cloud forensics.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is the definition of what the basis of cloud forensics, you guys? Does anybody know, like, truly?
I believe it's tracking people's IP addresses when they commit crimes or stalking or whatever. It would be the tracking of individuals' electronic behaviors.
Right. Yeah, geofencing also, through those apps that you use, they can track through your location services, not just your cell phone data, but like geofencing. Oh, I'm going shopping in this mall, and I had shopped for, Dick's Sporting Goods, and all of a sudden you get ads for Dick's Sporting Goods. That's all part of cloud-based stuff.
So that being said, how could that relate to an extortion case, if you think about that for a minute?
Well, I mean, again, what I think it means is here's what I think it means. When the FBI was looking into the AT&T cellular records specifically, not just, by the way, it came out late. It came out very late. It wasn't just Bryan Kohberger. They were looking into Maddie's cell phone, I think, and Xana's cell phone as well.
Right.
Which people asked, why the fuck were you looking into their cell phones? Even Steve hinted that now based on new information, there may have been somebody, like he made some kind of really cryptic thing when it came out that they were looking into their phones. That's about the same time. That's about the same time that the extortion case got attached to this. So when they were looking at the cellular data, again, did they see activity from the girls or Bryan Kohberger that there was some kind of extortion or threats made? Was Kohberger stalking the girls online? That's what they would love people to think. Kohberger must have been stalking the girls online, even though Brian Thompson said there's no connection between Bryan Kohberger and the girls. But the public would love that one because they want to believe he's the killer. But the point being is something led them to believe that there was a potential motive involving something to do with online activity.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And we know that's the only, and all I'm trying to do here is put Bryan in this situation somehow, knowing that he studied cloud forensics. I'm sorry. You can do that to some aspect because there's no other option. Bryan knew nobody. Nobody there. He knew nobody there. He had no connection in any way, shape, or form to anybody there. And it still takes me back to his teacher from where he was before, sending referrals. Yeah, the sales, sending the referral, telling them, all the things they did about him. I have these things floating through my head again about Bryan himself. There's no other option for this guy to be there.
Real quick, Gen S has had this, or Gen 7S has had this posted up here for a long time. Lee in the panel, in all of your opinions, do you think that all the covering of certain people was from the killers or an outsider that found them? So let me make sure I'm clear what you mean. I think what you mean is the book indicated that certain victims were covered. Like Ethan had the blankets pulled over him. That Kaylee. So the question I think you're asking is, if somebody pulled the covers over Ethan post-mortem, was that the killers that covered him up, or did somebody come into the crime scene later, like a hunter, and pull the blanket over? Like that's the kind of question you're asking. Did the killers themselves cover the victims, or did somebody come into the crime scene later and cover the victims? And that's a great question. What do you guys think? She's asking our opinion. Who do you think covered the victims?
I think it was done after, because if in general, as far as I'm concerned, if you're committing crimes, you probably not going in a busy house where people come and go all the time because it's a party house, to take the extra time to cover up the victims. And so, in my opinion, well, it could be either, but in my opinion, I believe it was done after the fact.
Meaning what? Like by police or by like the murderers?
Somebody in the
house
that knew what happened, and didn't report it.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, or people that were there that got called by the surviving people to come to the house, and maybe just as an instinct, a gut reaction, they covered them up. I don't know that, but that's just kind of one of the things that I think is very possible.
I think it was either the murderers because they knew them and the guilt kicked in immediately, or like JJ said, maybe somebody that's in the house after the surviving roommates or people that were called over. 100%. It's one of those two things. It wasn't PD in my opinion, obviously.
No.
So those are the only two things that make sense to me. So I agree with you, JJ, on that, half of that at least.
Yeah. Because you get a whole staging, the whole staging thing and posing stuff involved with that. So
this user's comment, real quick, this user's comment, love and other habits. I confirmed this online. Authorm Labs has received over $48 million in funding as of 2026. That is verified. Yeah.
I guess, and now that I think about what you were saying, thank you for that, by the way, that comment and that info. I forgot the posing. So I guess I'm gonna have to retract what I said. So now if they were posed, if this is true, and say for instance, Maddie was posed in the princess pose, they were posed in the snuggling or cuddling fashion, then no, it wouldn't have been the murderers because they want that to be seen. Okay, if that's who did that, they want that to be seen. So it would have to go beyond that. So then it would. My only answer there is going to be either the cleanup crew, or the like JJ said, people that came in after the fact. So it makes me wonder.
Think about. I don't even want to name names. Think about somebody. So if somebody knew what happened in that house and they were still in the house, and they had to sit in that house for another 8 hours, they might be like, fuck, I don't want to look at that. Like, so would they have just pulled the sheets over it and be like, I don't want to fucking look at that the whole time.
Well, I wonder.
Chris implied that, remember?
Yeah, he did. And I wonder too, whoever was involved in cleaning this up, somebody very likely went into that room too, looking to see what needed cleaned in there, if anything, and said, I don't want to see this, and covered them up, possibly, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's somebody that knew them too. So,
well, Chris, one of his things that he seemed pretty explicit without being explicit was that if you didn't want someone to be able to look in the room and immediately see what happened, then you might cover them up. However, Xana wasn't covered.
Right.
No.
Yeah, that was one of the weakest arguments I didn't like that Chris said, is that Xana literally, I think, lost digits, maybe fingers, in the attack. She's laying on her back, supine, in a pool of blood with parts of her chopped up, and we're to believe that somebody covered Ethan because you wouldn't want to see that somebody was killed in the bed. Like, how do you hide the bloody body? And again, this goes to how does Dylan just think she's sleeping, lying in a pool of blood that would have been there from being hacked up? Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
Why was Xana the only one not covered up? That's the other side to that too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great question. Why is she the only one not covered up?
Right. Does that mean something specific, or is it just a coincidence? You know how I feel about coincidence, so.
Yeah. Quinkadink.
Or
I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I asked that question too. I think I asked Chris that. Like, the 3 of the victims were covered up, and that's in forensic psychology, that's very significant. And he talked about it, but he kind of shifted a little bit when I brought that up. And so that's, to me, that's one of the things that I've thought quite a bit about. And so now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but those that we never shared those photos, on the stream, but we had that thing on the Discord. There was that one picture that to me looked like Ethan, covered with something also covering the face. in those pictures, and nobody really like addressed it too much. But I still look at that and think that that's what we were looking at with that. So not only was his body covered up, if it's what I think, I'm obviously preface by saying that if it's what I think I saw, his face and most of his head, except for the neck, were also covered. But I could be completely seeing it wrong, right? We interpret things sometimes how we think what it is, and we're not sure. But the reason why I came to that conclusion is because there were other photos where whatever that was covered up on the bed wasn't there. So when they show the edge of the bed where the frame is and everything, that whatever it was that was covered up it's not those covers that we're seeing. It's the other like comforter that we see. So I just thought about that too. Like the face was, if it was what I thought it was, the face was also covered. That's even more significant. That adds a whole other element.
KS Jensen art. There are no photos in the book. There are no photos in the book. No. So yeah, we did
a like a thing on Discord when those photos got dropped and got pulled back. Somebody had them already, so we did a little sort of like a stream or discussion about the photos on Discord. We never did it on the stream on here.
No.
Yeah, we didn't want to get into the bloody photos, even the ones that were like you had to really look. We didn't want to do that on a live stream and out of respect for the things. But look, even though we did that out of respect for people and their sensitivities, we still need to see those photos, in my opinion. The fact that the public can't look at the photos and ask those questions is a miscarriage of justice. We can't put it under scrutiny. Let us all look at it and see for ourselves. If it happened the way you said it did, then let us see it for ourselves.
And this is why it's important.
Big boys to handle it, you know.
This is why it's so important that we are able to see some of these photos. Like, look, Ethan had some kind of hair in his fist, right?
Yeah.
If no one is ever able to see any of the photos, we would never know that.
Good point. Yep. Real quick, I want to ask you guys: is anybody else questioning the fact? I know it's probably been forgotten because of all the other mess and craziness going on, but you guys realize that we still haven't had that document drop that we were supposed to have? They dropped and pulled it back, and it never came back. Like they never redropped it. We're still waiting on another document drop. At least one more, I believe. Remember the one that was
from Idaho State Police?
No, the NPD or the Latah County.
Oh,
the coastside site. I can't think of what the hell it's called. Anyway, there was a drop. They dropped the documents that had all the social security numbers and bullshit in it, and they yanked it back.
Yeah.
We never had that redropped.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I think they do. At this point, I just think they're thumbing the nose of the public and saying they're not going to give us shit anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems that's what I'm saying. It's like, what happened? Is there something that's holding that back, or is it just like they're like, fuck it, we don't care anymore?
I feel like we got that attitude, we don't care anymore. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm guessing.
I've got a bombshell public records request into them that they've just flat out ignored. They're way past time. So now I have to start to draft the nasty letter that reminds them they're not allowed to just ignore it. They have to give me a reason why they're not responding to it. But I have to fucking waste time and waste postage and go through the shit to say, I asked for this a long time ago. Idaho state law, per blah, 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 stays. You got to give me an answer.
Yeah.
What's the reason why you're not answering this fucking question? I got to play this game all the time.
We got a big one. Lee filed a big one about the AVL stuff of all the police cars, and that's huge.
That's one of the, in my opinion, one of the
big bombshell one.
Yeah, we don't need to. I don't need Rosie's or Tisdale's. I don't need their text. They could keep their phone. I need give me the AVL data from the car, and that will.
Yeah.
When did you send that out, Lee?
I'll have to look to see the exact. I'll look while we're chatting to tell you when I sent it out.
I'm just going to respond to a comment somebody mentioned to me in Ethan was covered because he was naked. I agree. I was saying that, but I was basing it on a picture that I saw that I thought was Ethan covered, and the face was also covered. So I was just really mainly commenting that if that was in fact him, his face was also covered. So I have a lot of questions still, as we all do, about things, because, like, for example, with this extortion thing, don't you think that if they had some extortion angle to pin on Kohberger, that they would have
I would think
released it to the public?
Of course. I would think they would.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely, especially to help push the narrative that he's such a bad person.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a little suspect as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Unless they were trying to cover up the whole OnlyFans angle, which they clearly tried to do.
Good point.
I love that one AI search that I did trying to ask about the OnlyFans thing basically said it's not appropriate for us to ask questions about people's personal life. And I'm like, it's literally potential motive for fucking murder. It's not like this is just a unrelated, it's none of their business. That's people's personal life. The personal lives is what gets people murdered. Who you're banging on the side, it gets you murdered. That's a private issue. Oh, it's none of your business who they were screwing on the side. Really? Because that might be the motive for murder. It's your business with what drugs they were doing. Really? Because it could have been a motive for murder. Like, saying that it doesn't relate to the crime is asinine. But
a big answer. A big answer to this. So there's many things with this case, but one answer to this, and we've covered this on here. Lee has mentioned it several times. If you watch a bunch of the videos from Turvey, he covers this. Turvey is, I don't want to say he's anti-law enforcement, but you watch his videos and you're going to get the feeling that he fucking hates law enforcement.
He's
so you're probably saying like, why do I like him? Because you could just tell from listening to him, he's super smart. He knows what he's talking about. And the statistics are statistics, and he makes reference to that 25% of all staging issues with crime scenes happen from law enforcement. And the answer to that is people get, whether it comes from pressure above or politics, they narrow down, and I believe Chris has said this multiple times too in a few different interviews. Law enforcement narrows down on one subject, one possible subject, and that's it. And they don't want to see anything else. They don't want to do anything else. They don't want to actually investigate anything. Everything has to fit that one little thing. Now, in this case, are there other factors at play? There's stuff. Could Kohberger be working with the FBI and all that? Yes, this is different, but just in a general sense, that's a high percentage. 25% of cases that have staging.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Because that's a lot. Yeah. That is a lot.
Yeah. Way more than it should be.
Agreed.
All right. Well, Hey, look, we're past 2 hours. This is starting to become a regular thing that we push past 2 hours. I try to keep it a little bit tight, neat, and orderly. So we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna go around the horn for our closing for the night. We'll go Dago, JJ, Robin, 1-1, and then myself. So Dago, let's do closing for the evening. It's been a great show. Let's do our closing thoughts for the night.
Great conversation as always, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us from both sides of the fence here. You guys are amazing. Thank you to every one of the moderators. Again, for those of you that are here, I appreciate each and every one of you. Again, we wouldn't exist without you guys. We couldn't do this without you, and God bless. Always look forward to these conversations, especially since this stuff has started to drop. They've turned into some very, very interesting convos, that's for sure. And I look forward to them every time I'm going to be here to do this. Thank you to Lee 1-1, Robin, and JJ again for having me here to be able to do this. It's always an honor. So very much appreciated. for making me part of your team. The family over here it's very much appreciated. And everybody that has supported us through this and still continues to day after day, thank you to every one of you. You are all so very amazing. Again, without you, we would not exist, and it just I can't express enough how much love I have for all of you. That being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your night. Don't forget to love yourselves, love each other, and please, please don't change a thing because you truly are the beautiful people. I will see you very soon. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you very much, Dago, for that. JJ, what do you got for closing thoughts for this night?
All right. Thank you, DA, Robin, 1-1, and Dago, the denizens, the meatballs, and all the great mods. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And we're in an interesting time now. Things are heating up in what I call the dissident true crime community, people that are questioning the official narrative. And I think I'm just sitting back, man. I'm taking it all in. I'm seeing what people say, what the buzz is when people see different interviews and different streams and things like that. And it's just been, wow. If you're someone who likes to observe and see how things play out, this is a really interesting time for people like that. And I would put myself in that category. So, and my first episode of State of the Deep is going to be released next Sunday and probably 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
And
Finally.
Yeah. So I have had time to get it all together and everything. So I did research, and that apparently is the best time for that kind of content that I'm going to do. So, but anyway, I thank you for everybody who's asked about it and supporting me. So I appreciate you all very much, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing your new channel get launched and get that thing going. That's everybody. I got a lot of people that have been waiting for it. So Robin, go ahead and give us your closing thoughts.
Well, yes, I'm very excited about that, JJ. Congrats and looking forward to that. So hope everyone tunes in right away Sunday and supports you. I know we certainly will. And thanks so much for coming out tonight, everyone. It's important to keep asking these questions to, don't let anyone shame you into not asking them, or it's too important to let your foot off the gas. So we appreciate you so much, whether you are here live with us in the evenings or whether you are on the replay crew. You matter just as much to us, and I hope everyone has a fantastic night.
All right, thank you very much as well. And then we've got 1-1 for closing thoughts for the evening.
All right, great discussion as always. Love all the mods, meatballs, the panel. This is what we do here, is question, right? So I see some comments in the chat. It was an interesting comment. Someone said that they unsubscribed to some other channels because they're tired of people attacking Chris. So that's what we do not do here. We're not attacking anyone.
No.
We question theory, and you should. You have every right
absolutely.
to question everything that anyone says, especially so on this channel, we are super big about backing things on receipts. So Lee gets all kinds of emails, and he's got 100 or 200 different theories from all kinds of people with green Martian, aliens and whatever. We're not going to talk about it here.
Don't talk about me.
Someone has to. You got to show receipts. So it's a little different because this kind of book that's out, he can't really show all the receipts. So you are perfectly within your right, though, and I give. Although people may have a certain opinion on what they think of Chris or what he's really doing or what's the motive, and that's fine.
Yeah,
you were allowed to do that. You're allowed to question. And I would say, because he's not, and I understand, and many people do, he's not gonna burn his bridges. He's not gonna, get his sources in trouble. You are allowed to question anything that he put in that book. Can you explain? What did you mean by this? What did you mean by that? Can you explain further?
Yep.
Hopefully he will answer. I have my own. There's a few questions. Hopefully we are able to talk to him again, or Lee's able to talk to him again. I have a handful of questions I'd love to ask him. You are within your right to ask anything, and that is not attacking anyone. So
that's right.
So don't
Absolutely.
feel bad if you do that. You are perfectly within your right. We're doing it here. I'm not attacking Chris. There are certain questions that I definitely have for him, as all the other panel members have. So
he promoted
don't feel bad
himself.
about that. Right.
Yeah.
I will give you my movie quote here.
Yeah.
Mid 2000s. I may have to do a little acting here, so
I'm gonna fail.
all
If
right.
it's mid-2000s, I'm in trouble already.
I'm done.
Yeah. Oh, please tell me you don't feel this.
Oh, Jesus
I
Christ.
didn't feel it. Maybe if you did it harder, a little harder.
Oh, is this the one where he's smacking him across the legs with the cane?
Is
Is it Dirty Rotten
Big Daddy.
Scoundrels?
Big Daddy?
Big Daddy? Yeah, okay. There.
No.
No, neither
Shit.
one. Okay.
Damn.
No, Jill, stop it. He's kidding. What?
What just
Good
happened?
God. He knocked his stuff out of his fucking chair.
Shit.
I'm ruining the room. What?
That was good.
Donkey fight. Jill, are
Donkey
you okay?
fight.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Gary, he didn't 100% connect. Feel that, Daddy? I actually did feel something there. Pride in my son.
I think
believe
Amanda
this.
got it.
What did she get?
Jack
yes,
and
she
Jill.
What,
Yes.
what'd you
Jack
say?
and Jill. Jack and Jill.
did. Yes.
Oh, that's
And if you guys haven't seen it, you should
Adam
definitely see it.
Sandler.
It's ve-
Yeah.
Yes. Very funny.
he played.
Mhm.
I was thinking of Mr. Deeds. Angie's right when I said the other one, but no, good one. Great movie. He plays two
All
parts.
right. Thank you very much. All right, everybody, it's been a great Monday night. We had a lot of deep questions. The book is now hitting people's houses and showing up on doorsteps, and it's available for sale tomorrow officially, even though the book has kind of leaked out there. Yeah, I see you're putting that book up there for your screen. That's what the book looks like. Get yourself a copy. And by the way, I really wish the people who shit all over the book would at least read the book before they shit on the book.
Yes.
It's too late. Everybody's been shitting on the book and you haven't even got the book in your hand. It is not a hit piece. I've noticed that the people who are shitting on the book seem to have no clue what the book actually said. They're just being told what it's being said, and then they're shitting on what people have said
Give
the
it a
book
chance.
says. Give it a chance. Read it yourself.
Yes.
So there you have it. And we'll see you tomorrow night, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.